a leather knife sheath, left behind on a bloody bed beside a 19-year-old girl who would never wake up. One small piece of military-grade leather, stamped with a Marine Corps emblem, carrying a single male DNA profile that did not belong to anyone in that house. That sheath is the reason we know his name. And nearly 3.5 years later, a new book claims that sheath, the single most important piece of evidence in the entire case, may have had a chain of custody problem the public was never told about. Before I say another word about Bryan Kohberger, I want you to remember who we are really talking about. 4 college kids. Not statistics, not headlines. 4 young people with families who are still tonight learning to live without them. Kaylee Goncalves was 21 years old. She was a general studies major. Her family describes her as the loud one, the funny one, the protector. She had just landed a job in Austin, Texas, and was about to drive cross-country to start her life. She was spending one last night in the King Roadhouse with her best friend, Madison Mogen. Everyone called her Maddie. She was 21, marketing major. Maddie and Kaylee had been best friends since the 6th grade. They shared a bed that night. They shared their last breaths in that bed. Xana Kernodle was 20. She worked at a local restaurant called the Mad Greek. She had a personality that filled a room. Her boyfriend was upstairs with her. Ethan Chapin was 20 years old, a triplet. His brother and sister also attended the University of Idaho. He had come to the house that night to spend time with Xana. November 13th, 2022. Moscow, Idaho. A small college town where people did not lock their doors. That was about to change forever. Now let me take you to the moment everyone forgets. Because the thing that defines this case is not what Kohberger did inside that house. It is what happened to the girl who survived. Her name is Dylan Mortensen. She was a roommate. She was on the 2nd floor, and sometime around 4 in the morning, she heard something. She told investigators she heard Kaylee say a phrase that still haunts everyone who has read the affidavit. Something along the lines of, "There is someone here." Then she heard what she thought was crying from Xana's room. Then she heard a male voice say, "It is okay. I am going to help you." Dylan opened her door, and she saw him. A figure dressed in black, a mask covering the lower half of his face, walking toward her. She described him as around 5'10", athletic but thin build, and one detail that the entire internet latched onto for months: bushy eyebrows. She froze. She locked eyes with a man who had just butchered her 4 friends, and he kept walking, right past her, out the sliding glass door, into the night. She did not call 911, not right away. She was in what trauma experts call a freeze response. She texted her roommates. She called them. Nothing. Then she did what college kids do when they are scared. She texted friends to come over. The 911 call did not come until noon the next day. 8 hours later. 8 hours. Think about that. 4 bodies upstairs. 1 surviving roommate downstairs. Too terrified to move. Now here's the first curiosity loop I want you to hold on to. Because the bushy eyebrows description was devastating for the defense, and Kohberger's attorneys fought for years to keep it out of trial. I will tell you why in a minute. But first, the car. Moscow police, working with the FBI, started looking at every piece of surveillance footage in a 20-mile radius. And they kept seeing the same vehicle. A white Hyundai Elantra, circling the King Roadhouse 3 times between 3:29 a.m. and 4:20 a.m., then speeding away at 4:20. They put out a public call. Have you seen this car? Over 22,000 tips came in. The Elantra was registered to Bryan Christopher Kohberger, a 28-year-old PhD student in criminology at Washington State University, 8 miles west of Moscow, across the state line, a criminology student studying the criminal mind, while allegedly committing one of the most brutal quadruple murders in modern American history. His cell phone records showed his phone pinged cell towers near the King Road house at least 12 times in the months before the murders. 12. Late at night, early in the morning, he was watching, he was planning, and on the night of the killings, his phone went dark, turned off, from just before 3 a.m. until just after 4:50 a.m., the exact window of the murders. When investigators pulled his phone data, they found something else. At roughly 9 minutes after the murders, Kohberger drove back toward King Road. Cell towers tracked him. He drove past the crime scene, possibly to see if police had arrived yet. Then he drove home to Pullman. And then he went home, to Pennsylvania, for Christmas. His father flew out and drove cross-country with him. A father who had no idea he was sitting in the passenger seat next to the man the entire country was hunting. Here is where it gets cold, clinical, and genuinely terrifying. The FBI used a technique called investigative genetic genealogy, IgG. They took the DNA from the knife sheath, uploaded it to public genealogy databases, and built a family tree. That tree led them to Bryan Kohberger. They then pulled garbage from his family's home in Pennsylvania. His father's DNA on a piece of trash matched the sheath profile as a biological parent. They had him. December 30th, 2022. FBI tactical agents raided the Kohberger family home, took him in handcuffs, extradited him to Idaho. He stood in court with eyes that people described as dead, empty, unreadable. For almost 3 years, he fought. His defense team was relentless. They tried to get the IgG evidence thrown out. They tried to suppress Dylan Mortenson's eyewitness identification. They tried to argue the knife sheath was mishandled. A new book published this April 2026, claims that a defense expert had identified serious chain of custody concerns around that sheath. Questions that, the book claims, might have made the sheath inadmissible at trial. We will never know, because on July 2nd, 2025, Bryan Kohberger walked into a courtroom and pleaded guilty to all 5 counts, 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. In exchange, prosecutors took the death penalty off the table. The families were furious. Kaylee Goncalves' father said it felt like the system had failed them. Maddie's stepfather stood up at the plea hearing and said evil doesn't deserve our time and attention. 3 weeks later, July 23rd, 2025. Judge Steven Hippler sentenced Kohberger to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus 10 years for the burglary, plus $270,000 in fines. Kohberger stood up to address the court. He had the chance to explain why. The whole world waited. He looked at the judge and said, "I respectfully decline." That was it. No motive, no apology, no explanation to 4 families who had buried their children. Judge Hippler's response was ice cold. He said the motive may never be known. And then he read, by name, every single victim. He listed their futures, their jobs, their dreams, the wedding Maddie would never have, the career Kaylee would never start, the babies Xana would never carry, the sister and brother Ethan left behind. The judge refused to say Kohberger's name during the final sentencing. He would not give him that. Today, Bryan Kohberger is inmate number 163214 at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution in Kuna, Idaho. He lives on J Block, long-term restrictive housing, which is the polite name for solitary confinement. He is locked in a cell 23 hours a day, 1 hour of outdoor recreation alone. His meals are slid through a slot. He is kept separate from the general prison population because the state believes, correctly, that he would not survive 1 week among them. He will die there. That is the only certainty in this case. But the April 2026 book reopened something the families had been trying to close. Beyond the sheath chain of custody questions, the book reportedly discusses photographs from the crime scene showing what appeared to be strands of hair near Ethan Chapin's hand. Hair that, according to the book, was never tested, was never processed through any lab, just photographed, logged, and shelved. Think about what that means. Not an accusation of a second killer, not a conspiracy theory, just a simple, unanswered question. Whose hair was under the hand of a 20-year-old dying boy? We probably will never know. The plea deal ended discovery. It sealed away questions that may have been answered at trial. Kohberger walks into his cell today, knowing things the 4 families will never know. And that is perhaps the deepest cruelty of this ending. Before I close, before I let you go, I want you to do something for me. Say their names out loud. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, 4 kids in a small college town in Idaho, who went to sleep one November night and never got to grow up. The man who took them will spend the rest of his life in a concrete box staring at a wall, but they will stay 20 and 21 forever. Dylan Mortensen, the surviving roommate, gave a victim impact statement at the sentencing. She told the court that the man who walked past her door that night took part of her with him. But she said something else, too. She said, "I survived, and I will live for them." That is what we hold on to. I am Carson Morgan. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.